You are now listening to All Yours Daddy, a full billionaire romance audiobook. Synopsis: a single night of reckless pleasure was supposed to be just that. One night. No names, no strings, no consequences. But when struggling artist Lila Monroe wakes up in the arms of a masked stranger, she has no idea her world is about to change forever. Damon King is ruthless, powerful, and untouchable. The billionaire CEO has built his empire on control and discipline. He doesn't do relationships. He doesn't do second chances. But when Lila walks into his office as his new executive assistant, he realizes she's the woman he can't forget, the one who slipped through his fingers. Now, Damon wants more. He wants her. All of her. But Lila is hiding a secret that could destroy them both. Damon always gets what he wants. And when he finds out the truth, Lila will learn that you don't run from a man like Damon King. Because once he claims you, you're his forever. Chapter 1. The dress was too tight, the heels pinched my toes, and the mask felt like a second skin. But none of that mattered. Tonight wasn't about comfort, it was about escape. The ballroom pulsed with wealth and decadence. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling, casting rainbows across the marble floor. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and forbidden indulgence. Strangers moved around me, faceless behind their gilded masks, sipping champagne and exchanging whispered promises in the shadows. I had no business being here. This was a world of the untouchable elite, a world I only glimpsed through the glass. But for one night, I wanted to pretend I belonged. Pretend I wasn't just Lila Monroe, overworked and drowning in reality. Then I felt it. A shift in the air, a pull so strong my skin prickled. Someone was watching me, not just watching, devouring. I turned, scanning the room, my fingers tightening around the stem of my untouched glass. That's when I saw him, a man standing on the edge of the crowd, his presence like a black hole, swallowing everything in its orbit. Dark suit, tailored to lethal perfection, a mask covering half his face, but I could feel his eyes locked on me, stripping me bare without a single touch. A shiver ran down my spine, every nerve in my body going taut. He didn't move, he didn't speak, but I felt him everywhere. The moment stretched, charged with something dangerous. My heart pounded against my ribs, my breath catching. I should have looked away. I should have walked in the opposite direction, but I didn't. Instead, I lifted my chin, ignoring the voice in my head screaming at me to run. The man smirked, then started walking toward me. The crowd parted effortlessly around him, like they sensed his power, his dominance. Every inch of him radiated control. My pulse thundered as he stopped in front of me, close enough that his scent, rich, dark, intoxicating, wrapped around me. "You're staring," he murmured, his voice a low velvet rasp that made my knees weak. "So are you," I managed, my voice barely steady. His lips curled at the corners, amusement flashing in his sharp gaze. "I always take what I want." A shiver danced down my spine. "And what do you want?" His gloved fingers ghosted along the bare skin of my wrist, his touch light but searing. "You." One word. Just one. Suddenly, oxygen was scarce. Everything logical inside me screamed to step back, to end whatever this was, before it even started. But then he took my glass from my fingers, setting it on a nearby tray, and my breath hitched. "Run," he said, "or let me ruin you." A warning. A promise. I didn't run. He took my silence as an answer, fingers sliding over mine, as he led me through the crowd. Every step sent another rush of adrenaline through me. This was madness, complete insanity, and yet I couldn't stop. A door, a hallway, the world around us blurred. Then we were inside a dimly lit room, the heavy door clicking shut behind us. The energy between us crackled, raw and unfiltered. He pulled me flush against him, and I barely had time to gasp before his lips crashed onto mine. Fire. That's what it felt like. Pure, scorching fire. I melted into him, hands fisting the fabric of his suit, as he took everything, every breath, every sound, every thought, until there was nothing left but him. His fingers dragged down my spine, igniting a heat so intense, I thought I'd burn alive. His mouth traced a path down my throat, his teeth scraping just enough to make me gasp. I felt drunk, dizzy, completely at his mercy. "You taste like sin," he muttered, his breath hot against my skin. I didn't respond. I couldn't. His hands found the zipper of my dress, and when it slid down, when the fabric pulled at my feet, I should have hesitated, but hesitation never came. There was no room for thoughts, for questions, for doubt, only this, only him. And when he lifted me, pressing me against the wall, I surrendered completely. Chapter 2. Sunlight stabbed through the curtains, cutting across the mess of tangled sheets and lingering heat. My head pounded, my body aching in the most sinful way. I stretched, my skin still humming from the night before, and for a moment I let myself linger in the memory of it, of him. Then I turned. The other side of the bed was empty. The space where he had been was cold. A sharp breath punched from my lungs as my stomach twisted. I sat up, clutching the sheets to my chest, scanning the room. My dress was draped over the chair, my heels neatly placed by the door, like he had cleaned up every trace of himself, like he had never been here at all. I swallowed hard, my fingers curling into the my heart pounded, a slow, dull realization settling in my bones. No note, no number, no name, just silence. A laugh bubbled up, dry and humorless. What had I expected? That a man like him would stick around. I dragged a hand through my hair, forcing a breath past my lips. It was just one night. That's all it was ever supposed to be. I had no right to feel the sting of disappointment. Forcing myself to move, I slipped from the bed, my legs shaky as I reached for my dress. My fingers brushed something, and I froze. A single black card sat on the chair where my dress had been. No writing and no logo, just black. My stomach dropped, unease curling inside me. What the hell? I picked it up, my pulse a frantic drumbeat as I turned it over. Nothing. Blank. A cold shiver ran through me, and for the first time, the weight of what I had done, what I had let happen, sank in. Who the hell was he? A sharp knock at the door made me jump. Miss Monroe? A crisp voice filtered through the heavy wood. Your car is waiting. My throat went dry. My mind scrambled. They knew my name, but I had never given it. I turned the card over in my fingers, my pulse a frantic drumbeat. This wasn't just a one-night stand. I had just made a deal with the devil. Chapter 3. My heart was still racing from the events of last night. Everything about it, everything about him. The driver's voice broke through my thoughts. We've arrived, Miss Monroe. I nodded, my stomach tightening. This was it, the first day at my new job. A job I had to take, no matter how bad the timing. My family's financial situation had hit rock bottom, and this was my lifeline. I walked through the glass doors of King Enterprises, the building that was everything I wasn't. Untouchable, cold, powerful. The receptionist greeted me with a tight smile and ushered me toward the elevator. My stomach flipped. By the time I stepped off on the top floor, I was already shaking. I was here to work, not to get distracted. But how could I ignore the electric shock that jolted through me at the thought of seeing him again? And then I saw him, Damon King. He was standing by his massive window, gazing out over the city below. His profile sharp, flawless, his black suit tailored to perfection, the kind of suit that whispered authority, power, and control. And his mask, that same damned mask of indifference, of control, hadn't changed. He didn't even need to look at me to command the room, but the moment he turned, his eyes locked onto mine, and my heart stopped. There was no surprise, no shock in his gaze. It was as though he had been expecting me, as though he had planned this moment all along. Lila. His voice was smooth, too smooth, as though he had all the time in the world. He didn't even need to raise his voice to make the room feel smaller, like the walls were closing in. I forced myself not to flinch, to stand tall, even though every part of me wanted to run. Mr. King, I replied, my voice betraying me with a slight tremor. He didn't say anything else at first, just studied me, as if calculating something in his head. I wasn't sure whether I should feel like prey or an equal. Come in, he said finally, motioning toward the massive desk at the far end of the room. The way he spoke, so commanding, so sure, made it feel like I had no choice but to obey. I stepped forward, every part of me on edge. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want him to be the man I had to work for. But here I was. I trust you had a good night's rest, he asked casually, the smirk in his eyes betraying his words. My blood went cold. Did he just? My stomach dropped to my feet. "Excuse me," I said, trying to hold my ground. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving me. The look in his eyes was predatory, and I felt every muscle in my body tense up. "I trust you're ready for your first day," he said, his voice smooth and full of an underlying promise that made my insides churn. I tried to swallow the lump in my throat, but it wouldn't budge. "Of course." He rose from his chair slowly, his tall frame towering over me, making me feel small in comparison. His presence was overwhelming, suffocating in the most maddening way. I couldn't even look at him without my pulse racing. I felt his gaze on me, not with the casual indifference of a boss and his employee, but with a hunger that sent a shiver down my spine. "I must admit," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper, "I was hoping you'd be just as memorable in the light of day." I stared at him, fighting the rush of heat flooding my body. I knew exactly what he was implying, and I hated myself for it, but I couldn't deny the raw pull, the tension that crackled between us like a live wire. "That was a mistake," I managed, my voice firmer this time. "A mistake I won't repeat." The air in the room shifted. He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "You think I don't know that, Lila?" His eyes flashed with something dark, something possessive. "But you'll soon realize that with me, there are no such things as mistakes, only consequences." His words hung in the air, thick with meaning, and I wanted to scream at him. I wasn't going to be his next conquest. Not now, not ever. But despite my resolve, my body betrayed me. Every instinct screamed that I was in over my head. This man didn't follow rules, he created them. "Sit down," he said, breaking the silence. "I'm not here to discuss your mistakes. I'm here to make sure you understand your place." I didn't move at first. I was fighting the impulse to turn and run, to leave and never look back, but the weight of his stare was too much to ignore. Slowly, I sat, forcing my hands to stay still in my lap. Damon leaned back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, watching me close. His eyes never left me, and I felt like he was peeling back layers, stripping me bare without ever lifting a finger. "You're here to assist me," he continued, his voice taking on a colder edge. "Nothing more, nothing less." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I don't want distraction. I don't tolerate failure." My heart slammed in my chest, but I nodded. I knew what I had to do. This was my job, my way out of the mess my life had become. I couldn't let him derail me. "I understand," I said, swallowing hard. For a moment, he seemed satisfied. Then, without warning, he stood up again, rounding the desk to stand in front of me. His proximity made the air feel suffocating. He was too close, his scent wrapping around me like a shroud. "Good," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "because failure isn't an option. Not for you, not for me." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His fingers brushed my hair, his touch sending a jolt of heat through me. It was a simple, almost tender gesture, but it felt loaded with something much darker. And then I realized, I was in this office, in this world, and Damon King wasn't going to let me go. Not that easily. The door to the office opened suddenly, and I jerked back, catching my breath. "Mr. King, your meeting is ready," his assistant said. The man's eyes flicked between us, clearly noticing the tension. Damon didn't even acknowledge him, his gaze still fixed on me. He didn't need to. He was in control, always. "Dismissed," he said, his voice hard, clipped. The assistant hesitated, but quickly stepped back and closed the door. The moment we were alone again, I felt the oppressive weight of Damon's presence, enveloping me once more. He took a step closer, his lips curving into a smile that was anything but reassuring. "I think we're going to enjoy working together, Lila," he murmured, his hand lightly grazing my cheek. I should have slapped his hand away. I should have told him off, but instead, I froze, lost in the storm of emotions that threatened to swallow me whole. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, he leaned in close, his lips brushing against my ear. "You're mine now." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning, and in that moment, I knew this was far from over. I was only just beginning to fall into his game. Chapter 4. I had barely stepped through the door of my tiny apartment when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the answer button. I should have ignored it. I should have let it go to voicemail. But something inside me, a mix of dread and curiosity, made me swipe to answer. Hello? Lila? His voice was unmistakable. Even through the phone, it made my pulse race, and my skin prickle. I swallowed, trying to sound steady. How did you get my number? He ignored the question. Get dressed. I'm sending my car. We have business to discuss. I bit back a groan, my pulse quickening for all the wrong reasons. Damon, I don't think, Lila. His command was sharp, final. Just do as I say. The line went dead before I could argue. I stared at the phone, fighting the urge to throw it across the room. What was wrong with me? Why did I let him get under my skin? Why did I let him control me? But even as I asked myself those questions, I was already moving, changing into something professional. Something that might, I feared, fuel his obsession even further. When the car arrived, I tried to steady myself. This wasn't a date. It wasn't even a meet. It was a trap. And I was willingly walking right into it. Damon's office was a fortress of glass and steel, cold and pristine. He was standing behind his desk, one hand resting on the surface, the other adjusting the cuff of his shirt as if he were some kind of king, expecting a subject to arrive on their knees. Lila, he said, his eyes never leaving me. As I stepped in, the air between us instantly thickened with tension. I told you before, Damon, I'm not doing this. My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. He smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of his lips. You think I care about what you want, Lila? His eyes raked over me, a flicker of something darker behind them. I don't take no for an answer. Before I could say another word, he slid a folder across the desk toward me. It was black, sleek, and ominous. I eyed it with distrust, but picked it up anyway, flipping it open. Inside was a contract. You're giving me a contract? I managed to choke out. What is this, Damon? A contract to work for me. By day, you'll assist me in everything I do. By night, you'll belong to me. He said it so casually, as if it were a standard employment agreement. But there was nothing casual about it, nothing professional. This was about control, about him trying to stake his claim. I'm not signing that, I said, forcing the words out past the lump in my throat. Damon didn't look at me like he'd been rejected. He looked at me like I was a challenge. I think you'll find you don't have much of a choice. Either you sign this, and we both get what we want, or I'll make sure you regret refusing me. His words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I could feel the weight of them in the pit of my stomach, threatening to drag me under. He leaned forward, closing the space between us, and for a split second I forgot how to breathe. You see, Lila, I'm not a man who likes to wait, and you've been keeping me waiting long enough. His words stung, and I hated how much they made my heart flutter, how much they made me ache, to be closer to him, even as I knew it would be my undoing. I'm not gonna be your plaything, I snapped, slamming the folder shut. I can't do this. This is insane. Damon didn't flinch. He didn't even seem bothered by my resistance. Instead, he calmly picked up the folder and slid it back toward me. You can. You will. But, for now, consider this a warning. His eyes flicked to the contract again. Once you sign, it's over. You'll be mine, completely. There was a hardness to him now, a coldness I had never seen before, and it terrified me. I could feel it deep in my gut. This wasn't just about a contract, about work. This was about something bigger, something darker. I stood up, trembling with anger, fear, and something I couldn't even name. I don't care what you think you can make me do. I'll never be yours, Damon. Not now, not ever. Damon's lips twisted into a smile, but it wasn't a smile at all. It was a warning. Don't be so sure, Lila. This game is far from over. But, if you think you can walk away without consequences, you'll be sorely mistaken. The door to his office opened just then, and I spun around, my breath caught in my throat. Damon's assistant, a tall, clean-cut man, stepped inside. Mr. King, the board meeting is in 10 minutes. Damon didn't respond immediately, his gaze still fixed on me. We'll continue this later, he said, his voice edged with finality. Get this contract to her. She'll sign it, and I don't want any excuses. As he turned to leave, I could barely keep myself from screaming. My pulse was pounding in my ears, my hands trembling. I was caught. This wasn't just about work anymore. Damon had crossed a line, and somehow, I was standing right at the edge of it, unable to turn away. I wanted to leave, to walk out of that office, and never look back. But then Damon's voice, calm and menacing, reached me again. stopping me dead in my tracks. "One more thing, Lila," he said, his tone like a blade. "I'll know if you try to run. And trust me, the consequences will be far worse than you can imagine." The door slammed shut behind him, and for the first time, I understood. Damon King wasn't just a man, he was a force, a dangerous, relentless force that wouldn't let me go, and I was trapped. Chapter 5. The tension in Damon's office was suffocating. I could feel it in the air, thick and charged, almost as if the space around us had become alive with a force of its own. We were inches apart, too close, too much. His gaze was intense, a heat I could feel in my bones, and I hated how much it affected me. I wanted to look away, to pull back, but I couldn't. My body refused to obey me. "Are you going to sign it?" His voice was low, almost dangerous, but there was a raw edge to it that hinted at something else, something more prime. "I'm not signing anything," I snapped, my voice more forceful than I intended. I hated the way my hands trembled as I clenched them into fists at my sides, the way his presence filled every inch of the room, making me feel like there was no escape. He stepped closer, and for a split second, I thought my heart might stop. His breath was warm against my cheek, his scent overpowering everything else, a dangerous combination of power, money, and control. But I wasn't about to give him that. I wasn't about to give. "I think you will," he said, voice a low growl as his fingers brushed against my wrist. I flinched but didn't pull away, not entirely. His eyes flickered with amusement, like he was savoring the control he had over me. It made my skin crawl, yet I couldn't tear myself away from him. "Don't," I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was warning him against. My mind was a mess, all of my thoughts colliding with each other. I couldn't think straight, not with him so close, not with the way his presence filled every corner of my mind. "I'll make you sign it," he muttered, leaning in closer, until I could feel the heat radiating off him, his lips brushing against my ear. "You think you have the power here, Lila, but you don't. You never have." My stomach twisted in a way I didn't want to acknowledge, but I pushed it down, fighting back. "I'm not your toy, Damon. I won't play your game." His smirk deepened, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips that made something coil in my chest. "We both know that's not true," he said softly, his voice like velvet. "You might be resisting now, but deep down, you want it. You want me. You've wanted this from the start." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt my pulse throb in my ear. He was too close, his lips almost touching my skin, and every inch of me screamed for him to pull back. But, at the same time, I couldn't make myself walk away. He had me in a vice grip, and no matter how much I tried to fight it, I was helpless. "No," I managed to choke out, forcing myself to breathe. "No, I don't want this. You lie so well, Lila," he said, a note of amusement threading through his voice. But I'm not buying it. The next thing I knew, his lips were on mine, urgent and command, and I couldn't stop myself from responding. I hated that I couldn't stop. Every part of me screamed to break free, but there was another part that didn't want to. It wanted to give in, to surrender to whatever Damon was offering, even though I knew it would ruin. I pulled back, gasping for air, trying to steady myself. "This isn't right," I said, my voice shaky as I stepped away from him, away from the heat and the chaos. He stirred inside me. His eyes were dark, too dark, with a hint of something dangerous. "You think I care about what's right, Lila?" he asked, voice thick with desire. "I care about what I want, and right now, I want you." My heart pounded in my chest, and I stepped back again, my legs feeling like they might give out beneath me. "No," I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and something else I couldn't quite place. But before I could say another word, he was moving toward me again, his steps deliberate, steady, and his eyes locked on mine, with an intensity that left me breathless. My body was betraying me, responding to him, even though I was screaming inside, fighting it, every step of the way. Then, just as he reached me, just as his fingers brushed against the collar of my blouse, something changed. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go any further. I pushed him away, harder than I meant to. He stumbled back slightly, surprise flashing in his eyes, before it was replaced with something darker, something colder. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he asked, his voice dropping into a dangerous "I can't," I gasped, my breath ragged, as I backed away. "This isn't right. I'm not. This isn't."
The kind of relationship I want with you, Damon. He stood there for a moment, silent, and for a second, I thought he might back off, but then he stepped forward again, slowly, deliberate. You think you can walk away, Lila? You think I'll just let you go? I don't want to be here. I don't want this. The words came out harsher than I intended, but they were the truth. Damon's eyes flashed with something cold, something dark, and it made my stomach twist. You think you can just leave me, Lila? You think I'll let you walk out of here after everything? No, this is just getting started. You don't get to run from me. I took another step back, my mind racing. I have to go. Before I could make a move for the door, Damon's voice cut through the air, low and menacing. I said no. The words hit me like a slap. Before I could react, his hand was on my arm, pulling me back toward. My heart thudded in my chest, panic rising as I tried to free myself from his grasp. Damon, stop. I struggled, but he didn't release me. You're mine now, Lila, he growled, his grip tightening on my arm. You can't escape. I won't let you. His words echoed in my mind, and panic surged through me. I knew he was right. He had me trapped. But then something happened. Something I hadn't expected. A sharp pain surged in my abdomen. I gasped, my body going rigid, as the room seemed to spin around me. My hand flew to my stomach instinctively, my breath catching in my throat. Damon's eyes flicked down to my hand, then back up to my face, his expression darkening with suspicion.
What's wrong?
He asked, his voice tight, almost too calm.
My voice faltered. I don't feel well.
He didn't seem to care. His grip on me tightened, and for a moment, I thought I might faint. You'll feel better once you realize you can't escape me, Lila. You're mine. I pulled back again, my mind a whirl of confusion and panic. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to be pregnant. This secret, the one I had worked so hard to keep buried, was suddenly crashing to the surface. Damon leaned in closer, his gaze dark and calculating, and for the first time, I saw it. He knew. He knew something was wrong. His hand grazed my stomach again, and that's when I couldn't hide it anymore. I'm pregnant, I whispered, the words coming out. In a breathless rush, the room seemed to freeze. Damon's eyes went wide, and for a moment, he said nothing, but the look on his face, surprise, followed by something else I couldn't place, left me frozen in place. He stepped back, his grip on me loosening just slightly, but the storm in his eyes was far from over. He asked, his voice low, dark and full of something that wasn't quite anger. It was worse. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but I was trapped in his gaze, and the secret was out. Damon King wasn't going to let me walk away now, and neither was. Chapter 6. The silence in Damon's office was suffocating. I could feel his eyes on me, searching, calculating, as if he could see every secret I'd ever tried to hide. My confession hung in the air, heavy and inescapable. He stepped closer, his jaw tight, his voice barely above a whisper. Say it again. I swallowed, my hands trembling. I'm pregnant. For a moment, I thought he might explode, but instead, he just stared at me, his expression unread. The mask of control he always wore was cracking, and I saw something raw flicker in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or something even more dangerous. How long have you known? He asked, his tone clipped. Not long, I admitted, my voice small. I was going to tell you, but you were going to run. He finished for me, his voice cold. I looked away, shame burning my cheeks. I didn't know what else to do. He was silent for a long moment, and I could feel the tension building between us, thick and electric. Finally he spoke, his voice softer but no less intense. You're not running, Lila. Not from me. Not from this. He reached out, his hand gentle as it settled on my stomach. The touch was possessive, protective, and it sent a shiver through me. This changes everything, he said, his eyes locking on mine. You're mine, both of you. I wanted to argue, to tell him he couldn't just claim me like a prize, but the words died on my lips, because deep down, I wanted to believe that someone as powerful as Damon King could want me, could want us, but I also knew nothing with Damon was ever simple.
Chapter 7. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and longing. Damon was everywhere. At the office, at my apartment, in my dreams. He was relentless, refusing to let me pull away, refusing to let me hide. He sent flowers to my desk every morning. He made sure I ate made sure I rested, made sure I was never alone. It should have felt suffocating, but instead, it felt like protection, like safety. But there was a darkness too. Whispers in the hallways, glances from his staff, and always, the sense that something was lurking, just out of sight. One evening, as I was leaving the office, a woman stepped out of the shadows. She was tall, elegant, with icy blue eyes, and a smile that didn't reach her lips. "You must be Lila," she said, her voice smooth as silk. I hesitated, clutching my bag tighter. "Yes?" She stepped closer, her gaze sharp. "I'm Victoria, Damon's ex-fiancée." The words hit me like a slap. I'd heard rumors, but I'd never expected to meet her face to face. She looked me up and down, her smile turning cruel. "You think you're special? You think you're different? Damon King doesn't love. He possesses. And when he's done with you, he'll toss you aside like everyone else." I tried to stand tall, but my heart was pounding. "You don't know anything about me," she laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "I know enough. I know you're just another toy. And when he's finished playing, you'll wish you'd never met him." She turned on her heel and disappeared into the night, leaving me shaken and uncertain. Was she right? Was I just another pawn in Damon's game? Chapter 8. I couldn't sleep that night. Victoria's words echoed in my mind, feeding every insecurity I'd tried to bury. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. My phone buzzed, a message from Damon. "Come to the penthouse." Now I hesitated, but I knew I couldn't ignore him. I pulled on a coat and slipped out into the city, my heart racing. The elevator to Damon's penthouse opened directly into his living room. He was waiting for me, standing by the window, the city lights casting him in golden shadow. He didn't turn as I entered. "You met Victoria." It wasn't a question. "Yes," I said quietly. He was silent for a moment, then turned to face me. His eyes were dark, stormy. "She doesn't matter. Nothing she says matters." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust him. But the fear was still there, gnawing at me. "Why me, Damon?" I whispered. "Why did you choose me?" He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me into his arms. His hands were gentle, but his grip was unyielding. "Because you're the only one who ever looked at me and saw a man, not a king. Because you're the only one who ever made me want more." He kissed me then, fierce and desperate, as if he could erase every doubt with his touch. And for a moment, I let myself believe. Chapter 9. But secrets have a way of coming out. A week later, I was in Damon's office, sorting through files, when I found it, a folder, hidden at the bottom of a locked drawer. My name was on the tab. Curiosity warred with dread as I opened it. Inside were photos of me, of my family, of my old apartment, notes in Damon's handwriting, dates, times, places. He'd been watching me, long before the night at the club, long before I ever set foot in King Enterprises. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. This wasn't chance. This wasn't fate. Damon had chosen me, targeted me. The door opened, and Damon stepped inside. He froze when he saw what I was holding. "Lila?" he said, his voice low, dangerous. I looked up, tears burning in my eyes. "What is this, Damon? Why were you watching me?" He closed the distance between us, his expression unreadable. "I had to be sure. I had to know you were safe." "Safe from what?" I demanded, my voice trembling. He hesitated, then spoke, his words slow and careful. "There are people who would hurt you to get to me." I couldn't let that happen. I shook my head, the betrayal cutting deep. "You lied to me. You made me believe this was real." He reached for me, but I pulled away. "Don't. Just don't." I left the office, the folder clutched in my hands, my heart in pieces. Chapter 10. I didn't answer Damon's calls. I didn't respond to his messages. I needed space. I needed to think. But space was the one thing Damon King would never give me. He showed up at my apartment 3 days later, his eyes wild, his hair mussed like he hadn't slept. "Lila, let me in." I tried to close the door, but he was stronger. He pushed inside, his presence filling the tiny space. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice raw. "I should have told you. I should have trusted you." I shook my head. tears spilling down my cheeks. You don't know how to trust Damon. You only know how to control. He dropped to his knees in front of me, his hands trembling as he reached for my stomach. I'm scared, Lila. I've never been scared before, but the thought of losing you, of losing our child, it terrifies me. I stared at him, my anger fading, replaced by something softer, something dangerous. Then let me go, I whispered. Let me choose you. Don't force me. He looked up at me, his eyes shining with something I'd never seen before. Vulnerability. I can't, he said, but I'll try. And for the first time, I believed him. Chapter 11. The weeks that followed were different. Damon tried, really tried to give me space, to let me make my own choices. He was still overbearing, still possessive, but there was a softness now, a willingness to bend. We went to doctor's appointments together. He held my hand, asked questions, listened. He even let me paint in his penthouse, turning a spare room into a studio just for me. But the outside world wasn't so easily kept at bay. One night, as we were leaving a charity gala, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of us. Men in dark suits jumped out, grabbing me before Damon could react. He fought God. He fought, but there were too many of them. They dragged me into the car, a bag over my head, my screams muffled by rough hands. The last thing I saw was Damon's face, twisted in rage and fear. Chapter 12. I woke in a cold, dark room, my wrists bound, my heart pounding. Panic clawed at my throat as I struggled against the restraints. A door creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped inside. Victoria. She smiled, cold and triumphant. Did you really think you could take him from me? Did you really think you could win? I glared at her, refusing to show fear. He doesn't want you, Victoria. He never did. Her smile faded, replaced by something ugly. He will. Once you're gone, he'll remember who he belongs to. She leaned in close, her breath hot against my ear. You're nothing, Lila. Just a mistake. And soon, you'll be gone. She left me alone in the darkness, my mind racing, my body trembling. But I wasn't giving up. Not now. Not ever. Chapter 13. Hours passed. Maybe days. I lost track of time, lost track of hope. But then, in the dead of night, I heard it. The sound of footsteps, the crash of a door. Damon. He burst into the room, his eyes wild, his suit torn, blood on his knuckles. Lila, he shouted, rushing to my side. He untied me, his hands shaking. I'm here, he whispered, pulling me into his arms. I'm here. I'll never let you go again. I clung to him, sobbing, relief flooding through me. He carried me out of that place, his grip unbreakable, his love undeniable. Epilogue. 2 years later, the house was quiet, sunlight streaming through the window. I stood in the kitchen, our daughter giggling in her high chair, paint smudges on her tiny hands. Damon walked in, his hair tousled, his eyes soft as he scooped our daughter into his arms. He kissed me, slow and deep, his hand resting on my stomach round with our second child. You're all mine, Lila, he whispered, his voice full of love and promise. I smiled, my heart full. Always, Daddy. And for the first time, I knew it was true. If you enjoyed this Billionaire romance audiobook, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.